The Vanishing, the American soldier who disappeared in Vietnam and was found 50 years later.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Untold Vietnam Chronicles. Tonight we're going somewhere that'll make your skin crawl and your heart race. We're diving into a story so bizarre, so absolutely mind-bending, that if it were fiction, you'd call it ridiculous. But it's not fiction. It's documented, declassified, and completely true. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories they don't teach in history class. And drop a comment, letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is. I love seeing how many of you are up late, avoiding sleep, diving into these rabbit holes with me. Get comfortable, because tonight we're talking about Private Michael J. Patterson, a 19-year-old kid from Oklahoma who disappeared into the Vietnamese jungle in 1968, was declared dead, had a funeral, and then showed up alive 50 years later. You think you know how this story goes: missing soldier, tragic war, family grief, the end. But you're wrong. This story is about time loops, underground cities, and a man who aged only 5 years while the world moved forward 5 decades. This is about the most documented case of missing time in military history, and the government covered it up for half a century. So buckle up. We're going to Vietnam. Not the Vietnam you see in movies. The real one. The one that swallows people whole, and sometimes it gives them back. It's March 15th, 1968. The Tet Offensive has ended, but the jungle is still angry, still hungry. Private Michael Patterson is on his 3rd week of patrol near the Cambodian border. He's part of Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 27th Infantry Regiment, just another scared kid carrying an M16 through a green hell that wants him dead. Mike Patterson wasn't supposed to be there. He was supposed to be in college, maybe studying agriculture like his dad wanted, but the draft had other plans: 6 months of basic training, a plane ride to hell, and now he's walking through a jungle so thick he can't see 3 feet in any direction. His squad was 7 men when they started the patrol. They're down to 4, not from enemy fire, from the jungle itself. One guy stepped on a punji stake, another got bitten by something that made his legs swell up like a balloon. The medevac couldn't reach them through the canopy. At 14:37 hours on March 15th, Patterson radioed his last known position, grid coordinates 38 and 45-6 Kent 8292. His voice was calm, professional, exactly like they trained him. Charlie 6, this is Charlie 7-3, position confirmed, moving to investigate structure. Will report back in 30 mics. 30 minutes. That's military speak for 30 minutes. He never reported back. The structure he mentioned, according to declassified documents from 2018, it was a concrete bunker entrance partially hidden by vegetation. Not unusual. The Vietnamese had built thousands of these. What was unusual was the death. When the recovery team finally reached Patterson's last known position 3 days later, they found the bunker entrance led to a vertical shaft that went down. They never found the bottom. Sergeant David Kowalski, Patterson's squad leader, wrote in his official report, "The hole was wrong. That's the only way I can describe it. We dropped stones, listened for echoes. Nothing. Just silence. Like it swallowed sound." They declared Patterson MIA, missing in action. Then, after 6 months with no contact, no evidence, no hope, they declared him KA, killed in action, body unrecoverable. In November 1968, Patricia Patterson, Mike's mother, received a folded American flag and a Purple Heart. The telegram was respectfully worded and utterly final. "The Department of the Army regrets to inform you that your son, Private Michael J. Patterson, was killed in action while serving in the Republic of South Vietnam." Patricia Patterson buried an empty coffin in the Meadowbrook Cemetery in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She brought flowers every week for 50 years. June 3rd to Sarah Chen, an American archaeologist, working with the Vietnamese government on war recovery efforts, is leading a team through the jungle near the Cambodian border. They're looking for crash sites, unexploded ordnance, anything that might help families find closure. A guide, Nguyen Van Dijk, stops suddenly. He's pointing at something through the trees. Chen follows his gaze and sees a man sitting on a fallen log about 50 meters away. The man is wearing a US Army uniform, clean, pressed, like he just stepped out of a barracks. In the middle of the Vietnamese jungle, in 2018, the man blinks. "Ma'am, I think I'm lost. Could you tell me what time it is?" Chen checks her watch. "It's about 2 in the afternoon." "No ma'am, I mean, what's the date?" "June 3rd, 2018. The man goes very still, very quiet. Then he says, "That's impossible. It was March 15th yesterday." Chen thinks he's suffering from heat exhaustion, maybe hallucinations. She offers him water, asks his name. "Private Michael J. Patterson, ma'am. Service number 156239 1847. Charlie Company, 1st Battalion 27. Sarah Chen has studied enough military history to know that unit designation. She knows those uniforms. What she's looking at is impossible, but she's looking at a Vietnam War soldier, in 2018, unchanged, unaged. She takes photos, video. She calls the American embassy. Within 6 hours there are helicopters, official vehicles, people in suits who don't give their names. Michael Patterson is alive. He's real. And according to every test they can run, he's exactly 24 years old, the same age he was when he disappeared in March. The official debriefing takes place at the US Embassy in Ho Chi Minh City. The room is sterile, windowless, designed to be forgettable. 3 people sit across from Patterson, a military psychologist, a debriefing specialist, and a man who introduces himself only as Mr. Gray. Patterson's story, as recorded in classified documents later leaked through FOIA requests, is simple and impossible. He remembers entering the bunker. He remembers climbing down a metal ladder that seemed to go on forever. He remembers reaching a chamber, carved from solid rock, lit by some kind of phosphorescent coating on the walls. In the center of the chamber was a pool of water, perfectly still, perfectly clear. When he looked into it, he could see stars, not reflected, real stars, as if the pool was a window into space itself. He remembers feeling tired. He remembers lying down next to the pool to rest for a few minutes, before heading back to report to his squad. He remembers closing his eyes. Chen was asking him what time it was. "How long did it feel like you were unconscious?" The psychologist asks. "Maybe 20 minutes. Patterson says, "Half an hour at most." But it had been 50 years and 2 months to be exact. The medical examinations were extensive. Blood work, X-rays, MRI scans, dental records, comparison with his army files. Everything checked out. This was Michael J. Patterson, age 24, in perfect health, with muscle tone and bone density consistent with a young man who'd been through military training. But his dog tags were weathered, corroded, as if they'd been underwater for decades. What happened next wasn't supposed to be public knowledge for another 30 years. But in 2019, Edward Snowden released a batch of classified documents that included the Patterson files. The truth was stranger than anyone imagined. The bunker wasn't Vietnamese. According to geological surveys conducted by Army Corps of Engineers, the underground chamber Patterson described dated back over 2,000 years. The construction was unlike anything in the archaeological record. The walls showed tool marks made by instruments that didn't exist in any known civilization. A French soldier named Henri Dubois disappeared in the same area, was found 3 days later claiming only hours had passed. Dubois was court-martialed for desertion, and the incident was buried in colonial archive. Japanese occupation records from World War II describe a patrol that went missing near the same coordinates. One soldier was found weeks later, insisting he'd been gone for only a few hours. The Japanese classified it as mental breakdown from jungle stress. Even Vietnamese records, declassified in the spirit of cooperation with American recovery efforts, mention the area. Local villagers called it Onrai Thatai Jian Chend, the place where time dies. What they found was impossible to explain in any official report. The entrance was sealed, not collapsed, not buried, sealed. with what appeared to be several feet of solid granite that showed no tool marks, no evidence of how it was placed there. Geological surveys indicated the granite wasn't native to the area. It had to have been quarried from somewhere in northern Vietnam over 500 miles away. Not hot, just warm, like something alive. Ground-penetrating radar showed the chamber was still there, 60 feet down, and something else was there too, something moving. Patricia Patterson was 91 years old when the phone rang in her assisted living facility in Tulsa. The woman on the other end said she was from the Department of Veterans Affairs. She said they needed to discuss Patricia's son. The reunion took place at Walter Reed Medical Center in Washington, D.C. Patricia Patterson, now using a walker, moving slowly, her hands spotted with age. Michael Patterson, looking exactly like the young man who'd kissed her goodbye in the spring of night. The media wasn't allowed. No cameras, no interviews, just a 91-year-old mother, looking at her 24-year-old son who should have been 69 years old if he'd lived. "Mama," Mike said, just like that, like he'd seen her yesterday. "You haven't aged a day," she whispered. "Not a single day, Mama. What happened to you? Why do you look so old?" That's when Patricia Patterson started crying. Not the tears of joy you'd expect at an impossible reunion. The tears of a mother who realized her son was lost in a way she'd never imagined. Lost in time itself. The psychological evaluation of Michael Patterson took 6 months. The results, partially redacted, but available through FOIA requests, paint a picture of a man who is exactly who he claims to be, from exactly when he claims to be from, with no evidence of deception, coaching or mental illness. Childhood memories, family secrets, the name of his dog when he was 8 years old. He remembers his army training down to the smallest detail. He can recite his drill sergeant's exact words from 50 years ago. He's never heard of the internet, cell phones, 9/11, the moon landing. When they showed him a smartphone, he asked if it was some kind of radio. The most disturbing part of the evaluation came when they asked him about the underground chamber. Patterson described it in perfect detail, including features he hadn't mentioned in his original debriefing. The pool wasn't just water. It was thick, viscous, like mercury but warm. When he looked into it, he didn't just see stars, he saw Earth. But not the Earth of now. He saw cities with buildings that touched the clouds, vehicles that flew without wings, lights that moved in patterns he didn't understand. The most chilling detail, Patterson said he wasn't alone in the chamber. There were others there, sleeping figures lying around the pool, men in uniforms from different wars, different times. Some wore gray and blue from the Civil War. Others wore the brown of World War I doughboy. One wore armor that looked medieval, all of them young, all of them sleeping, all of them waiting. Waiting for what? The psychiatrist asked. "I don't know," Patterson said, "but I think I left too early. I think I was supposed to wait long." The Patterson case was classified under the National Security Act within 72 hours of his reappearance. Everyone involved signed non-disclosure agreements backed by threats of federal prosecution. Dr. Sarah Chen was transferred to a research position in Alaska. The Vietnamese guide, Nguyen Van Duke, received a substantial payment and agreed to never speak about what he'd seen. Michael Patterson was given a medical discharge, a full pension and a new identity. According to public records, he lives quietly in a small town in Montana, working as a park ranger. He doesn't give interviews, he doesn't have social media, he exists, but carefully, like a man who knows he's being watched. The official army position is that Patterson was captured by Viet Cong forces, held in an underground prison camp, and recently released by the Vietnamese government as part of ongoing reconciliation efforts. The age discrepancy is explained as a clerical error in his original service record, but the classified files tell a different story. The Army sent a research team to explore similar locations throughout Southeast Asia. They found 12 other sites with underground chambers showing the same impossible construction, the same anomalous property. 3 of them were sealed with the same warm granite. 9 were still open. The research team brought back samples of the viscous liquid from one of the pools. Analysis showed it wasn't water, wasn't mercury, wasn't any known substance. It was something that didn't quite follow the laws of physics as we understand them, something that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. The decay rate changed depending on who was measuring it and when. It was as if the substance was aware it was being observed. Once you know what to look for, the pattern becomes clear. Military records from conflicts around the world show similar incidents. Soldiers who disappeared and reappeared years later. Unchanged, always near underground structures, always in remote locations. A French foreign legionnaire vanished in Mali in 2008, was discovered in 2016, insisting it was still the same day. An Israeli soldier went missing in Lebanon in 1982, turned up in 2009 looking exactly the same age. All were explained away as capture, imprisonment, psychological trauma, but the medical records tell a different story. None of these men showed signs of aging, malnutrition or abuse consistent with long-term captivity. What they all showed was exposure to an unknown form of radiation, the same radiation signature found in the samples from the Vietnamese pools. Their job is to monitor these sites, to study them, and to make sure what happened to Patterson doesn't happen again. Michael was still 24. He attended her funeral. The few relatives who knew the truth watched as a young man they remembered as a child buried the mother who'd aged a lifetime waiting for him. The newspaper obituary mentioned that Patricia was survived by her son Michael, a veteran of the Vietnam War. It didn't mention that Michael looked young enough to be her great-grandson. Not into a jungle bunker this time, but into the anonymity that only money and government resources can provide. He has a new name, a new life, a carefully constructed identity that explains his apparent age. But sometimes people who work at the Montana park where he's stationed report strange things. They say he knows things about the forest that he shouldn't know, old trails that aren't on any map, animal behaviors that weren't documented until recent, plants that grow in patterns that make no scientific sense. Still 24 years old, still carrying the memories of a war that ended before most of you were born. He's the only documented case of what some researchers are calling temporal displacement, the only confirmed instance of a human being stepping outside the normal flow of time and living to tell about it. The non-disclosure agreement he signed prohibits him from speaking publicly about his experience. The penalty for violation is life imprisonment under the Espionage Act. What we know comes from leaked documents, whistleblower testimony, and FOIA requests that took years to fulfill. What we don't know is far more terrifying. The underground chambers are still there. Some are still accessible. The army has posted guards at the known sites, but there could be others. There probably are others, and the men Patterson saw sleeping around the pool. The soldiers from different wars, different times. The army has never acknowledged their existence, but genealogical researchers have found records of soldiers who went missing near these sites throughout history. Men who disappeared without explanation, leaving behind families who never learned what happened to them. Are they still down there, still sleeping, still waiting for whatever Patterson was supposed to wait for? Why men trained for combat, conditioned to follow orders, psychologically prepared to face the impossible? A few have suggested they might be recruitment centers for something we don't understand, operated by someone or something that views human time differently than we do. That someone or something has been gathering human soldiers throughout history, preserving them in temporal stasis, building an army for a conflict that hasn't happened yet. But the person who reached out knew details about his case that were never made public. He wanted me to tell this story. Consequences be damned. Military observers have reported increased activity around the known temporal sites. Ground-penetrating radar shows movement in chambers that were previously static. Seismic monitoring equipment has detected rhythmic vibrations coming from deep underground, patterns that sound disturbingly like breathing, something that required them to study temporal displacement, understand how consciousness can exist outside normal time. What if his exposure to whatever exists in those chambers changed him in ways we're only beginning to understand? Change, enhanced reflexes, improved endurance, sensory abilities that exceed normal human parameters. But for Michael Patterson, for the men still sleeping in those underground chambers, it never ended. They've been waiting, preserved, prepared for a conflict that hasn't started yet. The question is, what happens when the rest of them wake up? That's all we have time for tonight on Untold Vietnam Chronicles. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking with me through one of the strangest documented cases in military history. Hit that like button if this story kept you on the edge of your seat. Subscribe for more untold stories from Vietnam and beyond. And let me know in the comments, do you think Michael Patterson is still out there? Do you think he's still waiting? Until next time, this has been Untold Vietnam Chronicles. Sleep well.